All right, everybody, welcome to the Underdog Playoff Best Ball stream. I'm Mike Leone here with Justin Herzig. Justin, awesome to have you contributing to ETR. Justin wrote an article, How to Beat the Underdog Playoff Best Ball game, and we're going to talk about this a little bit before we jump into a draft. Also, got to give a shout out, Justin, 200K winner in the Best Ball Mania regular season tournament. So that was pretty awesome, huh?
That was fantastic. Great to be on the right side of variance for a thing like best ball, where you can put a lot of hours and a lot of process into it. And the goal really is to get as many of those into the championship round. But being the only person with Kamara on a week that Kamara had a decent week.
It's wild because in the offseason, we were talking about ways to get, unique players in the final. And then you end up with a unique player that really had a very good season for the most part. And I guess he faltered a little at the end with some of the Taysom Hill weeks, that maybe that's part of the reason why you were the only one with him come the finals. But it's just wild. A player like that was unique. And then that was the Christmas week. So they played the very first game that week. And you right off the bat you were spotted 6 touchdowns on the field.
On Christmas Day. It was crazy. And I mean, yeah, because you got the Derrick Henry and the Dalvin Cook teams advanced pretty far, so you really can't have the Kamara and those two together. What was surprising is there was such heavy concentration on the Tennessee and Buffalo Bills stacks, and very easily you could have had those stacks, Diggs, whoever it is, with Kamara, but it just didn't happen to be. And then what was actually, you say process-wise, was looking at drafts early on, was doing a bunch where I wanted to see, like, hey, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, one of those games that could be a shootout, week 16, can I kind of get some mini correlation? And so I had a Tom Brady, Gronk, and Kelsey. And I mean, even that was probably, it was necessary to win it because Brady and Gronk still had that big weekend.
Yeah. And then the Saturday games that week, Gronk had a big week for the final championship week. But let's talk about your Underdog article. I was really glad I read it before I went into drafts because I was very busy with DFS projections week 17 with it being so messy. And then I'm like, all right, I want to jam some teams in this tournament. And had I not read your article, I could very easily see where someone could have entered this tournament somewhat blindly and not really understood the rules. And one of the big things all sharp players I know do is they approach fantasy as a game. So, and you really talked about that in your article, like understanding the rules and approaching this as a game. So why don't you give a little bit of, I guess, just an overview of why this is more complex than it seems at first glance.
Yeah. And without a doubt, I have my first 5-7 drafts are completely dead. Did not even read the rules and kind of just expected. I was like, well, I think that I did this last year and I think I just want to collect the most points. So, and I kind of just started drafting and eventually realized you obviously should read the rules, and the rules are pretty unique. And I won't go too much into this because I've imagined most of the people here have done so. But at the end of the day, you need to advance past each round. So we don't want to be drafting all those Packers, all those Chiefs, and then just end up creating a great team that if that was to happen, but you're not going to get past that first round. I will note there, though, an intricacy of it is to advance out of the first round, you only need to finish in the first 2. After that, for the next 2 rounds, you need to finish first. So it allows you to take a little more chances early on and say, I only need to finish in the top 33% for that first round and build big in those future rounds. So it doesn't mean that I don't want to, completely avoid those Kansas City and Green Bay. There is actually a little incentive, but you got to have that balance.
Now, for the second round, as far as the groupings that get made, do you know how those get made? Is it just random?
It should be just random. If you get multiple through, I think because of their max of entries in it, they make sure that you can't meet each other in your same ones. But it should be pretty random there, similar to the season long. And then eventually kind of just keep proceeding on until that final round where, depending on the tournament size, I think the most recent gauntlet, it might be 21. The first gauntlet had 40 or 50 and so forth.
Yeah, I was really tilting out of a draft from the one spot. I took Mahomes and I was 1 pick away from getting Kelsey and Hill, and someone sniped me and they said, I couldn't let you get that stack. And I'm like, that doesn't help you, man. That's because if I'm super Casey heavy early, first of all, it's a good odds of him making it out of the first round when we're actually competing each other. And then we're not really competing each other in a specific way after that. So I was tilting the snipe stack intentionally to not let me get it. But
Right.
from your article, one of the big takeaways is because of that structure, you want to stack a few teams together that gives you basically a chance to field a full roster each leg of it, because the scores reset after each round. It's not a cumulative score thing, which I think people don't fully understand the implications of that sometimes. So how do you deal with value in a draft like this? Is it non-existent? Are you just drafting purely structurally, or is there a point where you'll jump on a value that maybe as a one-off will help you out, maybe like the first round of Jonathan Taylor falls, or
Right.
I know you mentioned in your article you like Cleveland. Like sometimes those guys go super late if you kind of just need someone in that first round.
Yeah. And I mean, so let's use your example right there where you almost got the Mahomes Kelsey Hill stack. I think this is a very interesting contest because it's probably the only one in DFS where you'd actually rather be drafting against highly experienced, very knowledgeable, smart people. Because if you're drafting against other people who have similar strategies and understand the values of stacking, you are far less likely to be taking each other's players. And to your point around value, the way that I kind of approach these is, I take a portfolio approach where I understand how many drafts I'm probably going to be doing. For me, it's been a ton. For others, it might only be 10, might be 5, whatever it is. Think about how many approximately you're going to do, and then how you can kind of build around those scenarios. Because for me, I usually let the draft come to me. I don't go in with a predefined, this is how I'm going to draft, but I do understand that based off what pick I'm at, there's probably an increased likelihood that I'm going to start with one of these core 4 stacks, your Chiefs, Packers, Bills, maybe those 3, and then you can actually see between Seahawks, Bucks, there's a couple others. But early on, just want to let the draft come to me. That probably first pick or 2, I've got an idea of where I'm going from there. And then you can start actually identifying, okay, if I've got a, one or two, the top 1 or 2 seeds, I've got to say Saints earlier too, but obviously them. If I've got one of those top 4 or 5 teams, I then want to probably say, I'm going to go heavy on this for this one conference. And on the other conference, I'm then going to go very light. I'm going to identify the teams that I can get pretty late and know that, I'm probably giving up value. And if I'm going heavy on the Saints, I'm maybe not taking a John Brown. That's a pretty good, if I'm going heavy on the Saints, I'm not going to take let's go Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, who's good value. But instead, I might reach for that John Brown because while John Brown's projection may not be as good as a Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, there's a better chance that, hey, they can end up in the championship. And this payout structure is all about you need to have the best possible lineup for that championship. And there's enough people drafting that think about when you consider, okay, I'm going to have these 2 or these 3 teams built. And I actually prefer going for 2 teams because if you're going for 3, there's probably someone else that might have gone 2. And end of the day, if they have 8, 9, 10 players from those 2 teams and those 2 teams meet in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a very hard team to beat.
Right. So you could do all Buffalo, all Tampa, or all Buffalo, all New Orleans, since they're playing in the wild card.
Yeah. And right. So let's think about positions wise. My ideal is I'm only going 1 quarterback and either 1 or 2 running backs. And ideally, if I've done where I really only have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, I need to make sure that those 2 are on the same team, obviously. An example there is Henry and Tannehill. If I have Henry and Tannehill, I might just go completely ham with all wide receivers and tight ends for the rest of the draft because I'm making a bet that the Titans are going to get to the Super Bowl. And if they do, Henry's probably going to be the top scoring running back on the slate. And Tannehill's going to score enough points that he's probably going to be able to keep me, guide me there as well. And then all I need is 3 spots out of 8 players to fill for the rest of the time.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Before we hop in a draft here, sometimes when I write these strategy articles, I see people who think oh, that's a really sharp article. And then they'll do a draft and I'll be like, oh, that wasn't exactly what I meant. Is there anything you're worried people might, mistakenly take away from your article or, not grasp completely?
Yeah, I think the big thing I would say is the value of still being unique. And you can read the article, you can be great at these drafting, and you can see in that 1 overall spot, you're realizing that if I take Mahomes and Josh Allen, I'm not often getting the pass catcher to fall back to me. So I'm going to be unique. I'm going to go Kamara, and I'm going to be able to get Michael Thomas and Drew Brees to come back to me. And like that sounds like a fantastic setup. And my article would tell you, hey, that's a great start. You've got the Breeze stack going. Now you can go hammer that with some AFC teams. Almost, I'd say 30-40% of drafts I see, people have that stack, that Kamara, Thomas, and Breeze. So it's a great stack, but you're not going to be as unique as you think. So if the Saints make the Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of people with that stack. So try to start thinking how you can get unique. That doesn't mean you can't start with that stack, but then all those players that are ADP, maybe jump further. Maybe that's when you got those Saints and you say, you know what, I'm now going to go directly to the Steelers because I know that the Deontay Claypool, Juju, Ben's elite QB, I can grab 2 of those Steelers and still build a very strong team. And now maybe this will be a little more unique while still lining up for that kind of best case Super Bowl matchup.
All right. Looks like the gauntlet part 2. So this, I mean, once you wrote your article and I think people started to get ready for the week, the first gauntlet, the first set of this tournament flew like crazy. I think it was even Tuesday night. It filled up. I jammed a bunch of drafts. I was trying to do 2 at once. I don't know if you've tried that, but I like totally screwed up a couple of starts. Kind of confusing. Have you tried 2 at once or?
So Underdog's a fantastic site, and they're still fairly new. That is some functionality that they need to make a little easier, and I think they will over time. But it is challenging now. And I think so. Like best ball, I was doing multiple drafts at a time, and I think it was more manageable because A, you're going against 11 other people, so there's more time between your picks, and B, like stacking's important, but it's not nearly as important as this. Here, you've got to pay attention to what others in your draft are doing. Once you see that stack is gone, you got to adjust.
I probably sound like a boomer, but yeah, I'm literally writing down notes while I'm doing these drafts to make sure I don't screw up the structure. All right, let's jump in one. While I jump in, you noted to me before we went live that if it was a KC Green Bay Super Bowl, aka the Chalk Super Bowl, that you're probably in trouble. And the reason for that is you're not stacking those teams together because they're both out of the wild card round. You can't draft the full roster together, having them with the wild card round. So like, what do you think the winner looks like in that scenario though? That's what I was kind of trying to run through is like, if there's or any 2 teams that like don't fit together.
So for those 2, it's likely one of 2 things. It's someone got crazy lucky and they ended up getting that Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelsey. I haven't seen it. I myself haven't even gotten the Mahomes with Tyreek or Kelsey, but I'm also not drafting it as much from the one spot because just the chances. Or I think more likely is you're going to have QB running back. Because if you can get Mahomes, CEH, or Rodgers and Aaron Jones, those are both very plausible stacks that happen. And then finding some of those later Hardman, Watkins, MVS, Lazard, maybe throw in Tunyon. Now you've got your QB, you've got your running back to at least get you the base points, and now you can kind of fill in if there are some kind of odd ends out there. But that said, if that Super Bowl happens, I'm likely losing a lot of money because that's just an ugly stack that I'm more, and I expect that if you draft by value, you're just going to get those main guys. So it might just be someone who went by the value, grabbed a couple, and didn't really have that strategy. So I'm okay if that just doesn't work out for me.
Yeah, Tube Socks asks, so you have to get out of the first round of live if you pick any teams on a bye. Yeah, you really want, so the structure is 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers or tight ends. They're lumped together. 1 flex player that can be running back or wide receiver, tight end. And you have a 10-man roster. You get 5 on the bench. So you essentially want to create a team that theoretically allows you to start all 5 positions every single round because you have to win each round individually. Your points aren't going to carry over. So if you stack Green Bay, Kansas City, and you've only got 3 players going in the wild card round, you're probably dead because you're not going to get out of the wild card round. Some people might find that out the hard way and be, pretty disappointed that they don't even get to see their KC Green Bay players go off.
Now, the corollary to that is and I've done this a couple of times, I've started with Tyreek, Kelsey, and then I grab CEH. And I know it's going to be difficult for me to get out of that first round. But if I do, I'm in strong shape. And so in those kind of drafts, near the end, I'll be like, hey, let me grab some Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, guys who project well for this week. But I know that, hey, even if they don't make it to that second round, I'm now heavy on KC. All right, so we got 2 overall.
Yep. So what are you thinking from this spot? Kamara or one of the QBs? Or there's Adams. That's probably the clear top 4, right?
Definitely those are the top four. So in this situation, so when I'm playing one, I've actually started going a little more unique. With two or three, I'll go with Mahomes and Allen. With the reason being, with Mahomes, I think there's an outside shot that I might get a Kelsey or Tyreek to fall to me, and it doesn't happen often. But if you get that, you go for it. Same thing. I've even seen Diggs started going. I mean, Diggs' ADP moved to 7.3. So I'm less likely to take like a Josh Allen this early anymore because it's kind of ended up being a wasted. So here I would go Mahomes.
Ooh, okay, yeah, let's go Mahomes. That's what I've been doing too, because it's a better chance that you at least get one. Whereas Allen, I mean, obviously with Allen, what's nice is that you get Brown, Beasley, like pretty good prices later, but you're not going to get Diggs most likely.
So let's think through this now. If we know that Tyreek or Kelsey falls to us, we know that's an easy pick. So I don't need to devote any mental energy for that. Now, if they don't, I've got to think about, okay, what am I trying to do here? Well, we know that we're going to try to stack this with some NFC, and we're not going to go for a quarterback. So sometimes what I've been doing in this space is if I don't get one of those two, I might say, hey, look at that Tampa. Because we don't need Brady, Brady goes pretty high. Someone else might grab him. We can decide, do we want to go with a Rojo and grab a Chris Godwin or Mike Evans with a back chance that we might actually grab a second one that comes all the way back around.
So would you, let's say Aaron Jones and Ronald Jones are there, right? Aaron Jones, obviously the better value, but since you're not taking the second quarterback with Rodgers, there's really not a second high-end piece. Like, if this is assuming Tyreek and Kelsey go, and we don't get either of them. Like, is Rojo a better pick than Aaron Jones because you can go Rojo, Bucks pass catcher, or how do you view that?
Well, two things there. One, Rojo sets me up for a new stack. With Aaron Jones, he's going to be by himself unless I'm trying to later pair that with like the MBS Lazard stuff. But the challenge there is, how many players do I now have that are on bye first week?
Right.
And you're drawing basically dead if you're trying to then chase some fringe stats of the Packers that also aren't going to get you out of the first round.
Yeah. Tube Stocks with another question. Optimal strategy maybe take one or two guys from the bye teams. That's not necessarily the case. What we're saying is, like, if we stack KC, we're going to take a lot of KC guys. We're just going to be cognizant that on the NFC side of things, we're stacking a team that plays in the first round so that we're able to get out of that first round to even have our KC stack live. If we do get out of that first round, we'll be in good shape because, a lot of KC stacks in theory will die. So we're one pick away, hoping to get Kelsey. Let's see what he took Allen to start. He doesn't have Diggs available to him. He goes Godwin.
Okay. So I played with a few of these people before. A lot of them are smart. So I would imagine he's thinking, okay, he's got the same process that we just talked through. He didn't stack his Buffalo, so he's thinking, I'm going to stack Tampa. What do we have available with the Seahawks right now?
That's what I was going to say. That? I would say it's either like Road.
Oh, we have Kelsey available.
We would go Kelsey. We're going to go Kelsey with this pick.
Awesome.
But coming back, we should have a chance at either Rojo or the Seattle guys.
And my inclination here is not to fight someone who I see that they're trying to already go Tampa. So if he went Godwin, it's not, it's a prisoner's dilemma. If we start fighting each other and neither of us win. So maybe we can get I'm thinking honestly, Carson, before I would go with DK Tyler.
Thought process, I'm assuming, is you get the running back locked up and then you just hope one of the receivers fall.
And I'm probably not going to go Russ here. So if I want Seattle, I want them to actually do it on the ground because I've got them at Mahomes. We'll probably end up saying, let's grab Trubisky or someone like that, the very last pick, who's just going to get us enough points the first week. And then we're depending on Mahomes the rest of the way.
And this is, obviously we're thinking about this very structurally. This is why we're not taking Derrick Henry, because we don't want Tennessee to get out of the AFC. I think Tennessee would have to play.
We're thinking about the
most likely they're playing KC right away in round 2. So Carson's our guy, correct?
I think so. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, I think so.
And even if Derrick Henry wasn't going to play, I'm sure there's a method. There's a way where I guess if the Colts win, then Tennessee wouldn't play until the AFC Championship. But I'm thinking about the Super Bowl because all the money is in the Super Bowl. So I need to create a full team and as many players as possible from that Super Bowl matchup. And Henry just clashes too much with Mahomes.
So what QBs do you like drafting if you take Mahomes early? So you don't like taking Russ, in this scenario because you've already tied up, quite a bit of investment in Mahomes, even though Russ is a stack in the wild card round. So like in theory, what you're going for, AFC team, 2 NFC teams, get the quarterback late on maybe one of the wild card NFC teams. Cause obviously what's difficult sometimes with Kansas City is if the Tampa Bay guys go early, you're kind of, blocked out as far as what you can do late, and you kind of have to go with one of the more underdog teams.
Right. And so I wouldn't actually even lock myself into 1 AFC, 2 NFC here, because if we can grab like a DK and Tyler, well, now we have 1 running back and 2 wide receivers from Seattle. And we could then just say, hey, let's grab a QB and a running back late, like a Big Ben. I mean, running back, just like a Big Ben or something. And then you could probably stack him with 1 or 2 of his wide receivers. And now you're saying, I've got Seattle in the NFC and I've got 2 options in the AFC. So we're kind of leaving ourselves options.
So
DK left.
Yeah. And also managing your queue is important because like these things fly. You'll see I've been throwing guys here. What's weird is like we probably don't want CEH, right? Like grabbing Carson or
I would still take CEH if we don't get Lockett.
Yeah. I think that's kind of our only choice. I'm really hoping we get Lockett here. He's going Bills, Tampa. So that's good for us. Yeah, he goes Mike Evans. And this is what you said, the prisoner's dilemma. We let him get his stack. He lets us get our stack. So Lockett is the pick here.
Now, pause real quick. If we can click on the person in between us.
So we've got Baltimore, New Orleans.
Do we think that he's going to take CEH? He probably shouldn't. Okay, we're good with Lockett, so you can let that fall.
But that's a good point. I was probably going too quick, and that could have helped us like identify the order that we should have gone with things.
Correct. Just kind of think through that, hey, especially in this, if we can think through what he's going to take, maybe like if he would have had Russ before him, we definitely take Lockett and so forth.
And you said these drafts are getting sharper. Whose fault is that? But as you can see, both Emford and the guys around us are like stacking pretty heavily. And they've got some nice stacks. So CH seems like the clear pick for us here. It gives the stack. I know like you don't have to go with 2 running backs, but we're at a point too where we can draft later on a second NFC team potentially that doesn't necessitate Seattle getting to the Super Bowl. And then if Seattle doesn't get to the Super Bowl and Kansas City does, we're okay potentially.
Exactly. Yep. Right. We're in a situation with NFC teams where we can go heavy on the wide receiver tight ends because Kansas City, our goal right now is 1, get out of the first round. So we've got to kind of put some focus in that because we are, investing our 3 of our first 5 picks, our first, second, and 5th pick on guys who aren't playing the first round. We're also done with the Seattle stack. Sure, we could maybe throw in a Carlos Hyde or like a David Moore later on, but for the most part in this situation, I'm probably done with it because I want to focus on guys who are going to provide me with some upside value.
Yeah, they're not our core stack, essentially, the way this broke. Had, maybe we got a Metcalf as well as Lockett, that might have changed things a bit. But with getting CEH instead, we're all in on the Kansas City Super Bowl. So that makes this, I don't know, difficult because if we need a quarterback that plays round 1, right? So, and when we know we're not getting it from Seattle or Kansas City, so are you pinned to basically only wide receivers, tight ends on teams that have quarterbacks that we can still take in round 1 in the NFC?
I think my thought here is I'd go hard Chicago. We are invested in Seattle, so there's already value in Seattle having an easier road to the Super Bowl. We know that we can get David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, and Mitchell Trubisky, and probably throw in one of our other Kansas City guys. And Montgomery and Allen Robinson have very strong projections for the first week when you compare to who else is available at this point.
So I would imagine, knowing we're going up against a sharp guy, that maybe goes with a second NFC team. I'm not exactly sure the route he's going to go, but it seems like we should prioritize prioritize A-Rob because it doesn't seem like they would take Sammy, right? I mean,
I'm good with that.
And then what was I going to say? Who else are you thinking, I guess, with the Chicago
David Montgomery.
Montgomery. So you would take a third running back in this scenario because it fits. And you can play round one. You can play Carson and Montgomery together.
Right. And people are going to look at this team, and especially like after the draft, you're going to look at our projected points, and they're not going to be great. But that's perfectly okay because we're just building it. I got a feeling this is a pretty unique team. Not many people are jumping into the 6th round and starting to grab Bears. And B, we've got a scenario where the favorite ends up making the Super Bowl, and then we just need one of two of the kind of underdog teams in the NFC to also make it there.
So again, I kind of think even though the ADPs are different, that Montgomery seems more important to our build at this point in time than Sammy, knowing we can get like another Chiefs wide receiver if we get sniped on Sammy. Do you agree with that, or would you go Sammy first here?
I agree, but also I think McCall Hardman, and this might just be a personal bias, is a coin flip from Sammy Watkins, if not maybe actually even a higher upside play.
Yeah, and that kind of solidifies going Montgomery first and just taking whichever Casey guy falls. You can see I get a lot more flustered than Justin does. Right.
No, but you're doing a great job at monitoring that too. And I think that is an extremely underrated component where being able to see what players in your mind are available so you're not scrolling through. And I will say occasionally, because I set my queue and I'm so prioritized on it, I don't realize that someone like, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor is available in the 9th round, which probably would have been pretty good value, but I'm just not paying attention to it. So you do want to kind of look back and forth. But
there are so many times too that I wish I could sort on team when I'm doing these. I'm just scrolling through looking for, who can I add?
Yep. And the more you do, you start getting a feel for like, okay, what is approximately this person's ADP, where they are around? But Underdog's doing a great job of also updating that ADP. So we've seen guys just kind of moving on a near a daily basis.
So we've got 3 picks left.
We know Trubisky has to be one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wasn't like in my mind, we already made the stack. I'm glad. Like my mind, we had Trubisky.
And worst case, if we were to lose Trubisky and someone's watching the stream and screwing with us, we grab a different quarterback. There's enough that there's always a quarterback available for that first week.
Just fill out those points. So ideally, I think it'd be like Trubisky, Sammy, Hardman in a perfect world, right? Or
to be honest, that's too many Chiefs for me. Okay. Because I want to make sure that we are getting out of this first round. So think about the first round. We're going to have Trubisky, okay. We're going to have Carson and Dave Montgomery. That's good for running back. And now we're kind of light though on wide receiver with Lockett Robinson. I probably want to prioritize who we just think is going to be a strong wide receiver option as well.
Team, just regardless of team.
Yeah. Do you see anyone above?
We're on the clock.
Let's grab Claypool. Let's grab Claypool.
Okay. So that's like our upside play, get out of round 1. That's the mistake I think I've been making is I got so zoned in on the stacks that I'm at this point, this late, like it's okay to, take the one off to help you get there. I've sort of been, phasing that out. So,
and the other is, sorry to interrupt real quick. Claypool actually can get to the AFC Championship without playing the Chiefs, because assuming the Bills and the Steelers win, that's your 2-3 seed. So we could get 1, 2, 3 full games out of Claypool and still have our successful KC to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we now have 5 skill players for 4 spots the first week. So we have a little bit of leeway. Rather, if we had gone what I was saying in all KC, we would have been locked into those 4 guys. So would you take Mitch here to make sure you get the stack? Kind of same theory, just hope one of Sammy McColl comes back?
Because they're still available. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And honestly, it's probably me being a little biased that we're drafting on here. Normally, like Trubisky rarely ever even gets drafted. So here's what I would have done, and I should have done this.
So, I feel like an idiot. Sam Olsen points out to me that you could just type the team name in the filter.
That's pretty smart. Well done,
Okay.
Underdog. Well done, Sam Olsen. I'm picking that up.
Well,
What I was going to say, though, is what we should have done is taken a look at how many QBs everyone else has. If everyone else had two QBs, we probably could have waited. But you know what? Turns out, I can't read this right now, but Young Man Coffee, something like that, only had one QB. Let's see who it is. It's Breeze. Maybe he's fine with that. Maybe he wanted to get the Trubisky and get like a game stack matchup there. I think it's unlikely, but you know what? It's probably not going to hurt us.
yeah, that's a good point. Because the teams with one QB have a guy. It's Allen and Breeze, which are two QBs that make sense to roll one with because they're the 2 seed. So they're the most likely team to play every single round of this tournament.
Yeah. And yeah, FC Honor is sharp. I'm pretty sure he's just going to stay with just Josh Allen. So wouldn't expect that there. All right. Who is the best available wide receiver if we don't take a Chief? Is it Woods?
Probably Woods, if we're factoring in round 1 stuff. I've got Lazard pretty high, but again, that's on projected games. It doesn't really matter to us. So
right, and I'm thinking week out because my bias here is Sammy Watkins. If we can grab him, we get him. If not him, what's more important to us? Getting out of the first round with an additional player like Woods, or the really long shot of Demarcus Robinson? I think I would lean Woods given our build.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't consider David Moore at all?
No, probably not. Not with that. If I had Russ as the QB and I was building around a Seattle stack, so it is ours. I think we take Sammy. And
I just want to plot this out. So we'll have in the Super Bowl Mahomes, Kelsey, Sammy, CH, and then if it's Chicago or Seattle, we're still live.
Right.
We do have it right. I just wanted to make sure because if it's Seattle, it's actually a little dicey because you're locked into. Oh no, you're not locked into. You've got more flexibility than I thought. I was thinking 3 wide receivers, but you've got 3 wide receivers for 2 spots, and you've got 2 running backs for 1 spot, and then one of those can be flex.
Yeah. I want to take a look at that grid, and we'll kind of take a look at the drafts and see where maybe there's some others we like.
Yeah. How do I see the grid? Did I screw it up because I clicked on?
It should be available. I actually have not done it on web.
I'll make sure to bring the grid up on the next one. I don't.
Okay.
So we're gonna do one more. And I'll bring the grid up for this one. Here's a good question for you. Do you go 2 QBs if you have a first round QB already? I'm guessing it's pretty dependent, but
if it's Josh Allen, if it's Josh Allen and Lamar are probably the only 2 that I definitely do not. Maybe Russ. Other than that, I'm start looking at what is the value of getting as a stack. If that is really complementing my stack, and I realize hey, the value of having 2 QBs is that either of those teams can make the Super Bowl and you can still be alive. So if I feel that adding that second QB maybe gives me, now in the other conference, I can add maybe 2 players that would then make a complete 5-person team. Now it might be worth it. But it's really, A, am I getting value on that player? I definitely do not like reaching and spending 2 early picks on QBs. And B, how does this impact my stacks and my Super Bowl matchups?
A very specific question. Have you drafted any John Wolford? I think that's crazy. And especially now, it sounds like Goff actually has a decent chance of playing, which I was pretty skeptical about early in the week.
So I'm a Wake Forest alum. John Wolford played QB for us there, and I have not drafted any of him. So,
oh man,
that's something.
Do we want to mix it up here? They're trying to give us. They're trying to give us Mahomes.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get a different construction around him. We got Kelsey with him, right? Last time.
I mean, yeah, getting Mahomes 3 is strong because you've got that just increased chance of getting a Tyreek or a Mahomes. I mean, a Tyreek or a Kelsey. All right, so let's force it to make it a little more unique though this time. So we did that, what was it, Carson early on. So we just won't go Carson. We probably have actually a better shot to announce our stack, announce like to the draft.
Yeah.
So maybe we can consider what a Brady will look like. The challenge with Brady is somewhat. I mean, not Brady. The Bucks. The challenge with the Bucks is someone else is going to grab Brady pretty early usually, and if they do that, you're then competing against them to complete it. So
we got to go Tyreek for sure.
Love that.
And then I've got Rojo queued up because I really like getting that NFC wildcard running back team that could play multiple games. You mentioned there are challenges with the Bucks, but in theory, if he came back, that would be pretty nice.
Right. And so let's consider what do we have between us. So those two picks, we're looking at Josh Allen and Kamara. We already know that. Josh Allen missed out on Diggs, so they're going to get a little wild. Kamara, is Michael Thomas still available? No,
he went the pick before us.
So both these two teams in the middle are going to have to get a little funky.
Where do you like drafting better, in the middle or on the ends?
3 spots, my favorite.
Is it
in general? I like the ends, so that 5, 6. I mean, like just because when you're drafting on ends for best ball, you have a better chance of being able to control your stack. Want to go Rojo?
Yeah, I think let's rock out Rojo. It'll be good for the ETR brand and for Pat Kerrane, so he'll be happy with us.
Like it. Rojo's the mojo. All right. So yeah, I was gonna say, like, usually in best ball, I want one of the ends. Usually I want pick one, and don't mind like that other turn, just because you've got the increased ability to guarantee yourself your stacks. But in this, one just feels ugly because you're not getting anything. You're rarely getting your comeback stack, and then 6, 7. It's so often you either get stuck with Tyreek Kelsey, and it stinks to say you get stuck, but it's just so hard to kind of build something you like that has a good chance of getting out and has a good Super Bowl construction. Or you can sometimes get like a Rodgers Devontae, Rodgers Jones, and it's not too bad either. But again, you're uphill battle to get out of the first round.
One thing that's tempting, but I think it's important to avoid is, like, if Lockett is available here, you might think, oh, I can go Seattle as my second NFC team, but then you really run dry for a series of rounds because Seattle and Tampa Bay collectively goes in the first 4. But we're in a little bit of a tough spot with all the Tampa Bay receivers going.
Wow.
For sure, one would come back. That's tough. So we're in.
All right.
See, like, but now I just said not to do that. I'm staring at Carson and Lockett available.
Everyone else already has a QB. Let's go with Carson. I'm seeing the other people behind us all have their QBs, so it's unlikely they're going to draft Ross and try to grab Lockett. So we might get lucky and Lockett falls.
And you'll see I'll queue up players and let the time run out for to buy us a little bit more time.
Who are all these rascals that took all the Bucks? Like even Antonio Brown.
He went before Evans. I was like, okay, well,
crazy. So, people love the Bucks. Look at that.
He does have. I guess he was desperate for a stack because he's got a Brady, Henry, Diggs AB team.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Where when are we on the clock?
You're on the clock. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So
and
Russ
gone
and Lockett go. Goodness gracious.
Okay.
We got to go NFC someone because we got to be all.
I want to go Deontay and try to get Ben next time and just say, okay, we're going with a QB wide receiver from the AFC with both the Chiefs and the Steelers, and then we're just going to try to make some magic happen with those late NFC guys.
Okay, so what my concern at this point is...
I have a lot of concerns right now.
Yeah. How are we going to field a full roster in the Super Bowl?
Right. So what we're going to likely do is, all right, so hopefully we can get Ben. So I prioritize Ben. I would throw in a Juju Claypool. And
This
we'll
is
see.
interesting. I haven't had too much Steelers, but this does make sense. And as you've noted in our last draft when we took Claypool, that they don't play Kansas City round 2, no matter what. They can't play Kansas City round 2. They're going to play the Bills, or maybe not the Bills. They're not going to play Kansas City. That's what I'm getting at. Assuming they win round 1, which you have to assume the way you're drafting.
Yeah. And I mean, we are not at that point yet, but there's one other note that I didn't mention in the article, which I've kind of come to learn is sometimes there's nothing wrong with going for a min cash.
Oh, man.
Did
What's
Ben just
the min cash? How do Ben go? So,
all right. Okay. Yeah. So let's get rid of the Steelers.
What do you think about Gronk to, like, if Tampa Bay goes to the Super Bowl, we can make something work with Kansas City and Tampa Bay?
Yeah. I
I don't think we can go to a second or a third AFC team at this point.
No, we cannot. And we don't want to go Sanders. So it's either that or we just go Hail Mary and let's go Rams. Let's go Rams. Okay. Cam Akers, start with Cam. You have 6 seconds. Let's see if we can do it in time.
For some reason, I find it easier to slide him to the top of my queue.
Sure.
When I get this pop-out menu, I panic.
Okay. We know
We're making things happen on the fly.
This is pretty crazy. Okay, so Woods and Cup now are essential. And our crazy Super Bowl lineup is Mahomes, Tyreek, Akers, Woods, Cup. What's important?
This is wild.
Yeah. What's important is think of what that matchup looks like and ask yourself, what teams could others have drafted that is better than yours? And so in that matchup, there's no better Rams than us if we have Akers, Woods, Cup. Maybe some people focus a little more and got some fringe. Okay. On the other side, we've got Mahomes Hill, which is a great start to begin with. So, yeah, this matchup is unlikely to happen that the Rams are going to actually make it all the way. But if it does, we still actually have a shot.
As you see, Justin's a lot more creative than me on the fly. I would have gone Gronk and tried to eke out a KC Tampa Bay Super Bowl and gone Gronk and then probably some of the KC guys. So we've got 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can go Woods, Cup,
you still need a QB,
Kansas City. And
I hate this, but like, which QB do we go is a really tough decision because of the
Goff. But do you I think the idea is, do you just take Trubisky and get out of the first round, right?
Exactly.
And not even risk it because you're probably not using Goff. And you know what? I mean, Goff versus Trubisky, almost regardless of who wins, like they might not be that far apart in points. I don't know. That's a tough one.
If you told me that Goff is winning the game and then I compared that projection to Trubisky, probably a slight edge to Goff, but really that's only a small slight edge. And when we include the risk that he still may not play, I'd rather go with the Trubisky.
Because we're dead if we take Goff and he doesn't play, like sayonara.
Correct.
To us. And we've got Rojo, we've got Deontay Johnson, so we can kind of get there without an aerial attack round 1 from the Rams. You know, we can get a heavy Akers game, use the Akers score, use the Rojo score, use the Deontay score. I guess we're still going to have to use the Woods. And we got Cooper. Yeah. This is an interesting build. But the important thing, I think, as you would note in your article, is we're going to be technically live after this draft, as crazy as it seems.
All right. So now, round 9, round 10, this is a situation where I would not grab my QB now, because even if we didn't get Trubisky, then we can get Baker. We can grab Phillip Rivers. Like, we're going to be able to get a QB. So now I want to, as you said, not only just be live, but give myself a little bit of leverage in that Super Bowl. So Watkins and then Hardman is probably my core pick here.
Yeah, I know you've got him as a coin flip, but I can't pass on Sammy.
Yep, I agree.
Ahead of Hardman. Sammy really dropping far, but I guess if people are being stat cognizant, Sammy's not this massive value that people feel compelled to take without a stack.
Well, and that's the thing. It's interesting is you'll see players fall if they don't have the QB. So if you have the QB, you actually can expect your players to last a little longer because no one else is, needing to get them. on their stack, or at least if you're watching to see if no one else is trying to create that stack without the QB.
Yeah, and I'm really glad I did these 2 drafts with you, because I think if there were 2 extremes, overstacking and understacking, I was on the overstacking side, or on the structural side, I guess I would say, which if you had to be on an extreme, it's probably better to be on the structural side than being absolutely dead on the value side. But it's nice to hear some of the ways you're pulling back a little bit and being cognizant of the points you're scoring along the way, not solely the stack and the matchup, because I think I probably went a little bit too far with the structure. I know one draft in particular, I had a Seattle stack, and I took David Moore in the last round, and I was kind of thin in the first round, and it was like T.Y. Hilton was there, and it was like, I probably should have taken T.Y. Hilton.
If I have Buffalo, Seahawks, and then one other team that plays the first round, now I'm more likely to grab that David Moore at the end, because the chance of David Moore kind of helped me that first round when I've got everyone else live is, I mean, not David Moore, the chance of grabbing like that Allen Robinson to help me in the first round, his points aren't that important because I've got such a full lineup going. I'd rather take that upside of the Super Bowl and see maybe David Moore can get me that 160-yard touchdown.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay,
there we go.
Trubisky here. We're not going to risk the Goff game, which makes sense because, again, it's like a couple points difference in projection, maybe assuming the Rams win, and we're using Mahomes the rest of the way.
And we also have no Saints, and we've got, I mean, some Rams and stuff. So Rams have a better chance of advancing if the better teams lose. So maybe Trubisky pulls off the upset, and that makes an easier path for the Rams to actually advance through. Who knows?
And I got the grid up this time.
All right, nice.
So you can see we picked out of the 3 spot, and it started off really nice the first 3 rounds, and then so we went 1, 2. I guess Godwin did go before we took Rojo, but having both Brown and Evans go to separate teams was, that stung a little bit.
Yeah. And we knew that if you try to go for that Tampa stack starting in the 3rd round, it's challenging because when someone else, because that's the same time that Brady's available. So often someone's grabbing Brady and then saying, hey, I can grab the other pass catcher. To be honest, we probably should have expected that Brady and Evans would go. Antonio going as well is probably the a bit more surprising.
Yeah. It felt like there was a good chance one guy would slip. I mean,
yeah.
And Russ lasts to round 5, and it did break a little bit bad there for us. But the big key, I think, was in round 6, barely getting the Akers pick in time. Justin on the fly adjusting to us getting sniped on the Pittsburgh stack, which was our contingency 2. So we were on to contingency 3. But this gives us more upside overall than trying to go Gronk and then you're dead on any other Tampa Bay players. We would have been maxed out on 2 Tampa guys, whereas we've got the 3 core pieces on a team, which is more important than overly obsessing over their odds to advance.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Justin. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure I got to throw up the smash the like button. Smash the like button. If you're not an ETR subscriber as well, we've got a special offer going on. ROS 2020, rest of season 2020. We've got ranks for Underdog specific to them. How to use those ranks is more important, which is what Justin uncovers in his premium article. And we've got full FFPC coverage. We've got ownership projections for that. We got you all covered. So thanks for tuning in, and good luck this playoffs, everybody.